In the southern plains of the United States, wild boars have long been a true nightmare for the people. They ravage fields, destroy crops, and even attack livestock, causing severe economic losses for local farmers. That's why the local authorities reached out to us with a request for today's hunt. Our entire team decided to take on this special mission, not only to protect the harvest, but also to face one of the most dangerous creatures head-on. Will this perilous journey deliver the results we expect, or will we return empty-handed? Let's follow the full course of today's hunt. We began our pursuit, crossing snow-covered trails on a specialized vehicle to enter the northern forest. The temperature dropped sharply, the thick snow making every step harder than the last. The team double-checked guns, ammo, and GPS devices, while the hunting dogs were released to pick up the scent. Everything was ready. The hunt in the snowy forest had officially begun. In this terrain, high vantage point is the perfect ambush spot to observe the snow-covered forest below. I climbed quickly onto a large boulder, set up my own hunting post, and waited. Only 5 minutes later, movement broke the silence. A target suddenly dashed through a clearing between the dense pines. Without hesitation, I raised my rifle and aimed. The gunshot shattered the stillness of nature. The beast stumbled, collapsing beneath an old snow-laden pine. A perfect start to the hunt. Meanwhile, at another position, my teammate Jack faced off against a monstrous boar charging straight at him like a battering ram. Without flinching, he steadied his aim and pulled the trigger. The blast echoed through the snowy forest. The beast flipped backward, body trembling before falling still on the white snow. Just when we thought it was over, another gunshot thundered from the right. On the opposite slope, Nick had just fired at a massive boar scrambling up the icy cliffside in a desperate attempt to flee. The bullet struck. The beast faltered, then slid helplessly down the slope, leaving behind a crimson trail against the pure snow. Determined to pursue the rest of the herd, we pressed deeper into the forest. Suddenly, another target burst through the trees, darting with incredible speed. I steadied my breath, aimed carefully, and squeezed the trigger. The gunshot cracked sharply. The bullet landed true, and the beast collapsed instantly. Before the smoke even cleared, another hulking shadow charged toward the fallen boar. Whether a mate or a companion, I couldn't let the chance slip by. I raised my rifle and fired again. The boar staggered, stumbled a few steps, then collapsed beside its fallen kin. We continued along a narrow trail leading to the forest's edge. Only minutes later, in a windswept clearing, another lone boar wandered unsuspectingly. No hesitation. I adjusted my scope, fired, and the bullet struck home. The beast crumpled into the snow, helpless against the merciless cold. After combing the snowy forest, we spotted fresh tracks leading up the northern slope. It seemed the herd had climbed higher in search of food beneath the ice. Without delay, we packed up, tightened the dogs' leashes, and began our ascent. The air grew thinner, the wind bit harder, but ahead of us lay the true challenge, a mountain hunt in the snow. After a few hundred meters, the dogs barked furiously, signaling a target. From afar, a massive boar appeared against the snow, heavy but wary. I steadied my aim through the scope. One shot. The blast echoed across the mountainside. The beast faltered, staggered, then fell, its huge body etched into the frozen ground. A sigh of relief swept through us. One less threat, and this year's harvest would be safe from destruction. Suddenly, my radio crackled, "Target to your right." I swung my gaze toward the snowy ridge. A boar darted quickly across the slope, desperate to escape. In a split second, I fired. The shot rang out, and the beast dropped mid-stride, lifeless against the icy wind. Exhausted after hours of pursuit, we began heading back. But out of nowhere, a monstrous boar charged straight at me, fast enough to topple anything in its path. I stepped back, steadied my aim, and pulled the trigger in the decisive moment. The gunshot thundered. The beast faltered mid-charge, tumbled into the snow, and lay still as its heavy breaths faded away. The brutal hunt in the snowy mountains had come to an end, but our mission to protect the forests and farmlands will always continue. Every shot fired today was within the designated hunting zone, under strict compliance with regulations. If you want to keep following these intense and challenging hunts, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss another showdown between hunter and beast. There are places on this earth where people rarely tread, not because they're remote, but because they're dangerous. Take the deep, southern forests of the United States, for example. Here, wild boars don't just trample crops and destroy gardens. They attack livestock. They cause hundreds of road accidents every year. They put lives at risk. And we came here not for adventure, but to confront these beasts head-on. Deep in the wilderness, where even a tiny mistake might mean no second chance. Curious yet? It's time to follow us into the storm and find out who the real hunters are in this brutal encounter. We began our journey along a snowy mountainside, each step sinking deep into the frozen earth. The air was razor sharp. Every few minutes we stopped, checking weapons, wiping down scopes, making sure our radios didn't freeze. Everyone was on high alert. Out here, even one moment of distraction could flip the situation in an instant. While moving uphill, we suddenly spotted a group of wild boars slowly trudging through the blizzard. I locked onto the massive alpha leading the herd. My breath rose in a cloud as I steadied my aim. The gunshot cracked through the white silence. Direct hit. The beast tumbled down the slope and lay still in the snow. The rest of the herd scattered in panic, crashing through the trees and breaking the deathly calm of the mountain. We couldn't let them escape. We pressed on. Their hoof prints in the snow led straight up the mountain ridge. 10 minutes into the chase, we spotted them again, moving single file through the fog. I dropped low, raised my rifle, and focused through the fogged-up glass. The shot thundered through the air. One more beast dropped instantly. The rest, gone in a flash, vanishing into the wilderness. At the same time, on the other side of the ridge, one of my teammates was waiting in ambush. A massive boar charged straight at him, snow exploding beneath its hooves. He didn't flinch, raised his rifle, took aim. Boom. Clean shot. The beast slid across the icy ground and collapsed, lifeless. After clearing the ridge, we found a fresh trail leading down into the forest below. Without hesitation, we regrouped, checked ammo, and made our way down the frozen slope. The forest was dead silent, blanketed in white. Then movement. A shadow darted between the trees. A wild boar running fast through the snow. I lifted my rifle in silence, aimed, fired. The echo rang sharp through the woods. The boar dropped on the spot, its heavy body sinking into the snow. Meanwhile, at Ben's position, one of our team's veteran marksmen, the forest exploded with barking. His dogs had cornered another boar, one trying to scramble up a rock wall and across a frozen creek. Ben didn't wait. He dashed forward, leveled his rifle, and squeezed the trigger. The bullet slammed into its side. The beast collapsed, slid down the icy rocks, and came to a stop in the freezing creek bed. Dusk began to fall. We decided it was time to head back before darkness consumed the forest. But just as we turned, a blur of motion. A boar sprinted past, cutting through the brittle brush in a desperate escape attempt. I spun on instinct, raised my weapon, and fired. Direct hit. The bullet struck its back. The beast jerked once, then collapsed into the snow. Silence returned.
Attention là-haut à gauche, deux bons à tirer à gauche.
A flawless end to an unforgiving hunt in a frozen wilderness. Every single shot was taken legally within the permitted boundaries of this region's hunting laws. Winter has come early this year, and for hunters like me, it is considered a prime time to track wild boars. Wild animals that are increasingly destroying crops in many parts of France. Before dawn, my experienced companion, Etienne, and I arrived at the gathering point. They moved last night, he said, and the tracks are still fresh. They don't mind the cold, but the north wind today will slow them down. We went deep into the forest downwind so that they could not detect our scent. Wild boars here usually travel in small herds, 3 to 5, sometimes accompanied by a very intelligent and cunning leader. In the cold air, a wild boar appeared. We focused on shooting. Perhaps because the wild boar ran and the weather was extreme, we had to shoot several times. We continued along the gentle slope where the thick undergrowth provided the perfect habitat for the pigs during the day. I could feel the tension in my every step. The cold wind blew against my face, and the smell of rotting wood and damp earth made my mind strangely clear. Etienne suddenly raised his hand and pointed to the trees ahead. I focused my eyes and saw a large male wild boar. It was about 50 meters away from us, close, but not close enough to guarantee a fatal shot. The dogs had done their job of chasing the boar, forcing it to charge towards our ambush. Without hesitation, I raised my gun, held my breath, and pulled the trigger. The shot rang out in the cold air, and the boar fell. Half an hour after we killed the boar, we heard the sound of hurried footsteps. Etienne whispered, "There are a lot of boars coming." The words made my heart pound, not just from the exercise, but from the adrenaline rush. There was one too. Countless black shadows flashed between the trees. Without thinking, we gripped our guns tightly, aimed at the right spot, and pulled the trigger. The sound of an explosion pierced the still air. A few wild boars fell down. The rest ran away in panic. But we did not chase them, because the thick snow would easily tire us out. So we continued to search for other wild boar colonies. We moved to the south of the forest, where the trees were thinner and visibility was better. The dogs were still on duty to chase away wild boars that ran towards us. When the prey was within sight, we took it down immediately. To make the shot more accurate, we need to aim precisely at the head and chest of the wild boar. Thanks to that, we can kill the wild boar as quickly as possible without causing pain. Cold weather and thick snow did not deter us. The dogs, despite the cold, still chased the wild boar quickly. Perhaps the excitement made them forget the harsh weather. hunt made me realize that the French winter forest is not like the romantic pictures show. It is harsh, cold, and requires serious preparation. Every step can lead to danger. Every shot carries risk. We didn't let anything from that wild boar go to waste. The meat was shared with local families. The skin was processed into souvenirs. The bones were made into hunting knives. Everything had a purpose. Everything had value. Our winter hunting trip is over. Please like and subscribe to our channel to follow more of our journeys. Wild boars, creatures once thought to lurk only in deep forests, have become a true nightmare for rural communities. They rampage through fields, destroying crops, attacking livestock, and even targeting humans. Faced with this growing threat, farmers and hunters are forced to take action to protect their livelihoods. How have they confronted these ferocious beasts? Join us on a thrilling and suspenseful journey to hunt wild boars in today's video. Join us at the snowy hills of Montana, USA, in the depths of winter, where wild boars relentlessly churn the frozen ground, wreaking havoc on ecosystems and crops. We've come fully equipped with firearms, cold weather gear, thermal binoculars, and all necessary tools. The hunt in the frigid wilderness officially begins. Tracking footprints etched in the thick snow for an hour, we suddenly heard a strange noise ahead. All of a sudden, a dark shadow shot out from the bushes like an arrow slicing through the air. Immediately, I raised my rifle, locked onto the target, and pulled the trigger. The gunshot rang out, clean and decisive. The beast collapsed, tumbling a few times on the snowy ground before lying still. It seems my gunshot startled the other prey nearby. From a distance, another wild boar emerged. Swiftly pulling the trigger, the bullet struck its head, leaving the beast no chance to escape. The winter battlefield ended with victory for the steely hunters. Now, join me for another hunting adventure in the scorching summer of the American South, where the blistering heat drives wild boars to gather around fields and water sources. Firearms, binoculars, and tracking gear are ready. A new battleground, a new hunt begins now. Trekking along the hillside at dawn, we swiftly set out to hunt the ferocious beasts in the area. Suddenly, a rustling sound nearby signaled something approaching. A dark shadow burst from the thicket. I immediately drew my rifle, aiming straight at the target. The gunshot rang out decisively. The beast collapsed instantly, completely subdued by the hunter's barrel. The hunting dogs were unleashed, swiftly picking up the scent and driving the prey toward us. Moments later, from the edge of the hill, a massive beast suddenly charged forward. Unfazed, I raised my rifle, locking onto the target. The gunshot echoed through the still air, and in an instant the beast collapsed onto the parched ground, unable to resist. A few minutes later, another wild boar was struggling to climb up the rocky cliff. I raised my rifle, squinted to align the shot, and pulled the trigger without hesitation. The bullet whistled through the air, striking the target dead on. The beast lurched violently, then staggered, sliding down the hillside. Not far away, a teammate of mine was swiftly shouldering his rifle, eyes locked on a target sprinting wildly across the hills. The prey tried to accelerate, but mere seconds later, a sharp crack echoed. All movement ceased. IT collapsed without time to react. Today's journey concludes with breathless pursuits through untamed wilderness, where neither the harsh winter nor the blazing summer could halt the hunter's steps. All actions were carried out in strict accordance with legal regulations in designated hunting areas in the USA.